Well, that's just fucking perfect, Lieutenant Commander Alex Mitchell muttered, squinting through the viewport at the alien armada filling the sky. We're about to get wiped out by overgrown space lobsters, and Command sends us exactly. Let me check my notes. Ah, yes. Jack shit. Sir, the Zerlian High Command is requesting your surrender. Again. Communications Officer Daniels didn't bother hiding her eye roll. After 16 days of siege, formality had given way to gallows humor. Tell them what you told them yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that. Mitchell leaned back in his chair, the ancient metal groaning in protest. Tell them humanity would rather eat its own boots than bow to a species that thinks decorating with severed heads is the height of interior design. Daniels snorted. I'll translate that to diplomatic speech, sir. Don't bother. Their translator AIs have probably picked up enough human idioms by now to understand exactly how screwed they are once our reinforcements arrive. Mitchell's confidence would have been inspiring if anyone on Outpost Epsilon 9 actually believed reinforcements were coming. The reality was bleak. Epsilon 9, humanity's furthest colony in the Orion Spur, had been under siege for over 2 weeks. The Zerlian Dominion, an aggressively expansionist empire of arthropod-like aliens, had appeared without warning, destroying the orbital defense platforms before anyone could even sound a proper alarm. Now, 30,000 colonists and a skeleton military crew huddled beneath hastily erected shield generators, while the Zerlians bombarded them day and night. Sir! Light! Rivera called from the tactical station, her voice tight. Shield capacity down to 34%. Life support systems are failing in sectors 7 through 13. And, she hesitated, we've lost contact with the civilian bunker in Sector 5. Mitchell closed his eyes, letting himself feel the weight of those lives for exactly 3 seconds before compartmentalizing it away. 3 seconds was all he could afford. Divert power from non-essential systems. And someone wake up Dr. Lawson. Tell him we need another miracle with the shield modulators. As the crew scrambled to comply, Mitchell stared at the tactical display. The red dots representing Zerlian ships seemed to multiply every time he looked away. Their blockade was impenetrable. Their ground forces were massing for what would surely be the final assault, and Earth was silent. You look like someone pissed in your coffee, sir. Chief Engineer Marcus Blackwood appeared at Mitchell's side, his face streaked with grease and what might have been blood. Trying to decide if I should tell the colonists to start writing their wills, or if that would be too much of a morale killer. Blackwood snorted. Most of them already have. Jenkins and Hydroponics is offering to witness signatures in exchange for extra ration packs. Enterprising. Humanity in a nutshell, sir. We're getting our asses kicked. But someone's still finding a way to game the system. Blackwood handed over a tablet. Shield modifications are done, but they won't hold more than another 48 hours, max. After that, he made an explosion gesture with his hands, complete with sound effects. Mitchell accepted the tablet with a nod. Always figured I'd die in space, though I imagined something more dignified. Heroic last stand, perhaps? Not being squashed by aliens that looked like someone crossbred a lobster with a bulldozer. The universe rarely accommodates our death fantasies, sir. Blackwood's comm unit buzzed. He glanced at it and swore. Coolant leak in Section 4. Best enjoy the view while you can, Commander. We might not have electricity for dramatic lighting much longer. With a mock salute, he jogged toward the exit. Mitchell turned back to the viewport, watching as another salvo of Zerlian plasma fire splashed against their failing shields. The barrier flickered, sections turning transparent before stabilizing again. Daniel's voice caught through the command center like a klaxon. I'm picking up multiple signatures dropping out of FTL. Mitchell's heart stuttered. Zerlian reinforcements? No, sir. They're human signatures. Dozens of them. Large vessels. The command center fell silent. Then as one, everyone rushed to the nearest viewport. At first, there was nothing but the same view of Xerlian ships against the backdrop of stars. Then, like reality itself was tearing, space seemed to ripple. One by one, massive ships emerged from hyperspace, sleek predatory vessels bristling with weapon systems Mitchell had never seen before. "Are those Earth ships?" Rivera whispered, her voice a mix of hope and disbelief. "Not like any I've ever seen," Mitchell replied. His calm unit crackled to life. "Epsilon 9, this is Admiral Helena Frost of the Earth Defense Force Heavy Cruiser Thermopylae. Hang tight, folks. The cavalry has arrived, and we brought the big guns." Mitchell's jaw dropped as the largest of the human vessels moved forward. It was at least 4 times the size of any military vessel he'd ever seen, its hull emblazoned with the EDF insignia, a stylized Earth with wings. Without warning, it opened fire. The effect was immediate and devastating. Beams of blinding energy lanced out from the Thermopylae, cutting through Xerlian ships like they were made of paper. Those not directly hit scattered in panic, their formation disintegrating. "Holy shit," Blackwood whispered, having returned in time to witness the slaughter. "When did we get those?" "Commander Mitchell, please respond." Admiral Frost's voice came again, sounding bizarrely casual given the destruction her ships were unleashing. Mitchell fumbled with his calmness as "Mitchell, Admiral. What the hell am I looking at?" A chuckle came through the speaker. "The result of humanity realizing we weren't alone in the universe, Commander. The Xerlians aren't the first hostile species we've encountered. Just the first to pick a fight with a colony instead of a military outpost. We've been busy since first contact." As they watched, the human fleet methodically tore through the Xerlian blockade. Ships that had terrorized Epsilon 9 for weeks were reduced to drifting debris in minutes. "We've got dropships inbound to your location with supplies and reinforcements," Frost continued. "Think you can hold out another 30 minutes? Mitchell looked around at his ragged crew, their faces transformed by the light of Xerlian ships burning in orbit. For the first time in weeks, they looked alive again. "We'll roll out the red carpet, Admiral." The landing zone was barely organized chaos. Mitchell had managed to muster what passed for an honor guard, soldiers in mismatched armor, civilians with homemade weapons, and medical staff too exhausted to bother with proper uniforms. They stood in loose formation, watching as the dropships descended through the atmosphere like avenging angels. "Think they brought real coffee?" Blackwood murmured, standing at Mitchell's side. "At this point, I'd settle for clean socks," Mitchell replied, trying to ignore how his uniform stuck to him after weeks without proper laundering facilities. The first dropship touched down, its engine sending dust swirling across the landing pad. The ramp lowered with theatrical slowness, and Mitchell straightened his spine, preparing to greet whatever brass had come to save their asses. What emerged wasn't what anyone expected. They were soldiers, yes, but unlike any Mitchell had seen. They wore powered armor that made them tower over even the tallest colonists, sleek exoskeletons that hummed with energy. Each carried weapons that looked like they belonged in a sci-fi film rather than standard military issue. Leading them was a man of average height who, unlike his troops, wore only a simple uniform with admiral's insignia. His weathered face broke into a grin at the sight of the welcoming committee. "Commander Mitchell?" "Admiral James Reynolds, Special Operations." He extended a hand. "Sorry we were late, traffic was hell." Mitchell shook the offered hand, feeling slightly dazed. "Better late than never, sir. Though I'm curious why my distress calls went unanswered for over 2 weeks. Reynolds' expression sobered. "Walk with me, Commander. Your people can help my teams distribute supplies." He gestured toward the dropship, where soldiers were already unloading crates of supplies. As they moved away from the crowd, Reynolds lowered his voice. What I'm about to tell you is classified to the highest level. The only reason I'm sharing it is because you and your people have earned the right to know why you were left hanging. Mitchell waited, his patience worn thin by weeks of siege. Earth has been at war for nearly 2 years, Commander. Not with the Xerlians. With something worse. Much worse. The Collective, we call them. High-mind species from the galactic core. They hit us hard and fast, targeting our communication relays first. Epsilon 9 was effectively cut off before you even realized there was a problem. Mitchell felt cold despite the planet's scorching temperature. 2 years. How is that possible? We've had regular calm traffic with Earth until the Xerlians showed up. Reynolds grimaced. Automated systems, mostly. And some creative information management. Earth's government decided to keep the war compartmentalized to prevent panic in the colonies. So while we thought everything was business as usual, Earth was fighting for its survival? The implications made Mitchell's head spin. And these weapons? This technology? Necessity is one hell of an inventor, Reynolds finished. When faced with extinction, humanity pulled out all the stops. The armor your dropship crews are wearing? Reverse engineered from Collective Tech. Those ships that just wiped out the Xerlian fleet. Designed and built in secret orbital facilities over Mars. Mitchell stared back at the troops unloading supplies. Up close, their armor was even more impressive, with subtle lights pulsing beneath the surface like artificial veins. And the Collective? What happened with them? Reynolds' face split into a fierce grin. We kicked their telepathic asses back to the galactic core, Commander. Turns out, a hive mind makes for a serious disadvantage when fighting humans. They couldn't comprehend our illogical strategies. Our willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. Our sheer bloody-mindedness. Their biggest tactical error was assuming we'd break when they decapitated our command structure. But we don't break, Mitchell said softly. We adapt. Exactly. Without central command, every ship captain, every colony governor, every damn sergeant with a squad became their own decision-maker. The Collective faced not one enemy but thousands, each fighting in their own unpredictable way. Reynolds shook his head, admiration clear in his voice. They retreated 3 months ago, but we've been busy cleaning up pockets of resistance and rebuilding our infrastructure. And now the Xerlians, Mitchell added, pieces falling into place. They saw an opportunity with Earth distracted. Opportunistic bastards, Reynolds agreed. But they also made a critical error in judgment. He nodded toward the sky, where the human fleet hung like deadly stars. They thought they were attacking an isolated colony. They didn't realize they were poking a species that had just finished evolving its military capabilities by several centuries in the span of 2 years. A soldier approached, her armor making her movements seem unnaturally fluid. Admiral, we've secured the perimeter. Xerlian ground forces are in full retreat. Shall we pursue? Reynolds considered for a moment. Negative, Captain. Let them run. I want prisoners, not corpses. The Xerlian Dominion needs to understand exactly who they picked to fight with. Yes, sir. The soldier saluted and withdrew. Mitchell watched her go, still trying to process everything. So what happens now, Admiral? Now? Reynolds' eyes gleamed. Now humanity returns to the galactic stage, Commander. Not as the newcomers, not as the underdogs, but as the species that faced 2 different alien threats and came out stronger. The Collective thought we were easy prey because we weren't unified like them. The Xerlians thought we were vulnerable because we were spread thin. Both discovered that humanity's greatest strength is that we are at our most dangerous when backed into a corner. Mitchell couldn't help but smile. Humanity, fuck yeah. Reynolds laughed, the sound incongruously light in the war-torn landscape. That's going to be our new diplomatic slogan. I'll suggest it to the ambassadorial corps. The debriefing room, hastily converted from what had once been Epsilon 9's largest cafeteria, buzzed with activity. Mitchell sat at a makeshift command table with Reynolds and the colony's civilian leadership, watching as advanced holographic displays showed the systematic dismantling of remaining Xerlian forces on the surface. "The last pocket of resistance is here," Reynolds was saying, pointing to a mountain range to the north. "They've dug in with what appears to be their command staff. Standard protocol would be orbital bombardment, but I'm inclined to try a more diplomatic approach." Governor Eliza Kwan, her normally immaculate appearance marred by weeks of siege, raised an eyebrow. "You want to negotiate? After what they did to our people?" "Not negotiate," Reynolds clarified. "Educate. I want their leaders to return to the Dominion with a very clear message about humanity." "And what message is that, exactly?" Mitchell asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Reynolds smiled thinly. "That we are not to be fucked with. Ever." A soldier entered, whispered something to Reynolds, and departed. The Admiral nodded, his expression shifting. "It seems the Xerlian commanders are requesting parley. How interesting that their tune changes when the balance of power shifts." Governor Kwan's face hardened. "They've killed hundreds of my people. They don't deserve parley." "Perhaps not," Reynolds agreed. "But this isn't about what they deserve. It's about establishing humanity's position in galactic politics moving forward." He turned to Mitchell. "Commander, I'd like you to accompany me. You've faced these creatures for weeks. Your insight would be valuable." Mitchell nodded, though the idea of sitting across from the beings responsible for so much death made his stomach turn. "Of course, Admiral." The journey to the Parley location, a neutral zone established halfway between the human outpost and the Xerlian mountain refuge, took less than 20 minutes in one of the advanced shuttles the relief force had brought. Mitchell spent most of the trip studying the Xerlian dossier Reynolds had provided, absorbing information about an enemy he'd fought but never truly understood. "Fascinating species, really," Reynolds commented, noticing Mitchell's absorption in the files. "Highly hierarchical, with a biological caste system. The ones you've been fighting are mostly warrior caste. Not particularly bright, but exceptionally lethal in combat. Their commanding officers, though, belong to the thinker caste. More reasoned, more strategic." "And more dangerous?" Mitchell asked. Reynolds considered this. "In some ways, they're certainly more capable of long-term planning. But they share their warrior brethren's fatal flaw. They fundamentally cannot comprehend why inferior species don't simply submit to superior force." "And we're inferior in their eyes?" "We're inferior," Reynolds corrected. "I suspect today's demonstration has challenged some core assumptions in their worldview." The shuttle touched down in a clearing. Through the viewport, Mitchell could see a Xerlian vessel had already arrived, an elegant chiton-like craft that seemed to have been grown rather than built. "Remember," Reynolds said as they prepared to disembark, "this isn't about vengeance. It's about setting the tone for all future interactions between our species." Mitchell nodded, though vengeance sounded pretty appealing after weeks of watching colonists die under Xerlian bombardment. They exited the shuttle flanked by 4 soldiers in the advanced armor. The Xerlians emerged from their vessel simultaneously. 3 tall figures with iridescent exoskeletons and multiple limbs held in careful, non-threatening positions. The central figure stepped forward. Unlike the warrior caste Mitchell had glimpsed during ground assaults, this Xerlian had a smaller thorax and an enlarged cranial structure. When it spoke, the words emerged from a translator device at what passed for its throat. "I am Hive Commander Zyx Tikal of the Xerlian Dominion. I come under the ancient protocols of species parley." Reynolds inclined his head slightly, not a bow, but an acknowledgement. "Admiral James Reynolds of the Earth Defense Force. This is Lieutenant Commander Alex Mitchell, the officer who has been resisting your illegal invasion of this colony." The Zerlian's compound eyes shifted toward Mitchell, multifaceted surfaces reflecting the sun in disorienting patterns. The resistance was noted. Unexpected, but noted. Unexpected? Mitchell couldn't help himself. You bombard a civilian colony for weeks, and you're surprised we fought back. The Hive commander's antennae twitched in what might have been confusion. Your defenses were inadequate. Your numbers were insufficient. Surrender was the logical choice. Reynolds smiled with a humor. I think we've identified our first cultural misunderstanding, Hive Commander. Humans rarely make decisions based solely on logic, especially when our homes and families are threatened. So we have observed, the Zerlian acknowledged. It is perplexing. However, the arrival of your fleet has demonstrated that our intelligence on human military capabilities was flawed. The Dominion proposes immediate cessation of hostilities and the establishment of a demilitarized zone between our territories. Mitchell expected Reynolds to jump at the offer. Instead, the Admiral's expression hardened. That's not going to work for us, Hive Commander. Your forces invaded a sovereign human colony without provocation, killed innocent civilians, and would have continued until everyone was dead if we hadn't arrived. Those aren't the actions of a potential diplomatic partner. The Zerlian's posture stiffened. What do humans propose, then? Continued conflict would be detrimental to both our species. Detrimental to yours, certainly, Reynolds replied evenly. As you've seen today, the technological gap between our militaries is substantial. But you're right, we don't want continued conflict. What we want is for the Zerlian Dominion to understand exactly who and what humanity is, so mistakes like this don't happen again. Reynolds pulled a small device from his pocket and activated it. A holographic display appeared between them, showing what Mitchell recognized as a map of known space. This, Reynolds indicated a small section, is Zerlian territory. This, his finger traced a much larger region, is now recognized as human space. You will respect these boundaries. You will make no further aggressive moves against human colonies or ships. In return, we will not do what every instinct is currently telling us to do, which is to push all the way to your homeworld and demonstrate just how thoroughly we could end your civilization if provoked. The Hive Commander's translator emitted a series of clicks before resolving into words. The Dominion does not respond well to threats, Admiral. This isn't a threat, Mitchell interjected. It's a forecast, based on available data. The Zerlian's compound eyes swiveled toward him. Explain, Mitchell stepped forward. In the past 2 years, humanity fought and defeated a technologically superior enemy, the Collective. We took their technology, improved it, and developed countermeasures. We adapted. Then, your forces attacked one of our most distant colonies, thinking us weakened or distracted. Within minutes of our fleet's arrival, your invasion force was decimated. That's not a coincidence or luck. That's humanity's defining characteristic. We learn, we adapt, and we overcome. Every time. The next species that attacks us, Reynolds added quietly, will face an even more formidable response. Because we will have learned from this encounter as well. Evolution, Hive Commander, doesn't just happen over millennia. For humans, it happens between battles. For a long moment, the Zerlian was silent, its antennae moving in subtle patterns that the translator didn't interpret. Finally, it spoke. Your proposal is accepted. The Dominion will withdraw all forces from human territory as defined in your map. We request safe passage for our remaining ships. Reynolds nodded. Granted. But understand this isn't a peace treaty or an alliance. It's a recognition of reality. If the Dominion wishes to establish normal diplomatic relations in the future, that door remains open. But any further aggression will be met with the full force of a humanity that no longer needs to hold back. The Hive Commander performed what might have been a gesture of acknowledgement. The Dominion understands. There is much to reconsider about our assessment of your species. I suggest you start with the assumption that technological advantage is permanent, Mitchell offered. We find that one particularly motivating to disprove. 3 days later, Mitchell stood on the observation deck of the Thermopylae, watching as Epsilon 9 shrank beneath them. The colony was already showing signs of recovery, with repair drones swarming over damaged structures and new defensive systems being installed by Earth's elite engineering corps. Penny for your thoughts, Commander? Admiral Frost appeared beside him, her uniform impeccable despite the chaos of the past days. Just wondering what happens next, Mitchell admitted. For the colony. For Earth. For all of us, really? Everything I thought I knew about humanity's place in the galaxy has been upended. Frost smiled, the expression softening her otherwise severe features. That's the thing about paradigm shifts. They're disorienting at first, then exhilarating once you adapt to the new reality. And what is the new reality, exactly? That humanity isn't just another spacefaring species fumbling its way among the stars. We're something the galaxy hasn't seen before. Adaptive, innovative, and unfathomably stubborn. She gestured toward the viewport. 2 years ago, we were on the brink of extinction. The collective had superior technology, superior numbers, and a unified consciousness that should have made them unbeatable in conventional warfare. So we didn't fight conventionally, Mitchell guessed. We fought like humans, Frost confirmed. Dirty, desperate, and with absolutely no concern for the proper way to wage interstellar war. When they jammed our communications, we developed quantum entanglement comms that couldn't be blocked. When they targeted our command structure, we decentralized and gave ship captains unprecedented autonomy. When they deployed technology we couldn't match, we captured it, reverse engineered it, and improved it. She turned to face Mitchell fully. Do you know what the collective called us toward the end, before they retreated? Mitchell shook his head. The evolutionary anomaly. Their hive mind couldn't comprehend a species that could change its strategies, its technology, even its social structure so rapidly in response to threats. Pride was evident in her voice. They had evolved over millions of years to be perfect predators, and they couldn't adapt fast enough to counter a bunch of upstart apes who'd only figured out electricity a few centuries ago. The ship hummed around them as it prepared for the jump to hyperspace. Mitchell watched as the last of the escort vessels took formation. Admiral Reynolds mentioned I'm being reassigned, he said finally. If you accept, yes. Earth is establishing a new division, the Rapid Response and Adaptation Corps. Its mandate is to be our first line of defense against new threats, but more importantly, to be our front line of innovation. Reynolds thinks you've got the right mindset for it. Because I kept a colony alive against impossible odds? Frost chuckled. Because when faced with those impossible odds, your first instinct wasn't to follow protocol or wait for rescue. It was to adapt, improvise, and overcome with whatever you had on hand. That's exactly the spirit this new corps is built on. The ship's intercom announced the imminent jump to hyperspace. Frost straightened. Think about it, Commander. Earth is entering a new era, and we need officers who understand what that means. Not just tactically, but philosophically. With a nod, she departed, leaving Mitchell alone at the viewport. Below Epsilon 9 was now just a glowing dot amid the darkness of space. Soon, they would jump, and he would return to an Earth transformed by war, technological revolution, and the profound realization that humanity was not alone in the universe. As the hyperspace engines engaged and reality distorted around the ship, Mitchell found himself smiling. The galaxy had no idea what it was in for. Humanity had faced extinction twice now, and each time had emerged stronger, more advanced, and more determined. Evolutionary anomaly, he murmured to himself. I like the sound of that. The observation lounge of Earth's Orbital Defense Station Alpha was packed with military personnel, government officials, and scientific advisors. Mitchell, newly promoted to commander, stood at the back, watching as Admiral Reynolds addressed the assembly. 1 month since the Epsilon 9 incident, and already the galactic landscape is shifting, Reynolds was saying, his voice carrying easily through the space. The Syrian Dominion has withdrawn to its borders, and according to our intelligence, is undergoing significant political turmoil. It seems their failure against what they perceived as an inferior species has damaged the ruling caste's credibility. Holographic displays showed various alien vessels moving through space. Some Xerlian, others belonging to species Mitchell didn't recognize. More significantly, 3 previously neutral species have reached out through diplomatic channels, Reynolds continued. They've been watching, and what happened at Epsilon 9 made quite an impression. The Tellurian Confederacy, in particular, has expressed interest in formal alliance talks. A murmur ran through the crowd. Alliance with alien species was unprecedented. Until now, humanity's interactions with extraterrestrial life had been exclusively hostile. What's changed? A voice called out. Mitchell recognized Admiral Frost, her pointed question cutting through the buzz. Reynolds smiled. What's changed, Admiral, is how we're perceived. For years humanity was viewed as technologically primitive, politically fragmented, and militarily insignificant. Our victory over the collective changed that perception among those who knew about it. Our response to the Xerlian invasion broadcast that change to the entire sector. He expanded one of the holographic displays, showing a recording Mitchell recognized from Epsilon 9, human ships tearing through the Xerlian blockade with devastating efficiency. This footage has been transmitted across every major communication network in known space, Reynolds explained. Some species see it as a warning, others see it as an opportunity. The Tellurians fall into the latter category. They've been under pressure from Xerlian expansion for decades. They see in humanity a potential counterweight. So we're leverage in somebody else's power play, Mitchell found himself saying, the words out before he could stop them. All eyes turned to him. Reynolds, rather than showing annoyance at the interruption, nodded thoughtfully. An astute observation, Commander Mitchell. And yes, there's certainly an element of that. But leverage works both ways. The Tellurians possess technology we don't, particularly in the realm of biological sciences. They've offered to share it in exchange for military protection. And we'll improve it, someone else called out, generating a ripple of laughter. Exactly, Reynolds agreed. The pattern continues. Humanity adapts, integrates, improves. It's what we do better than any other species we've encountered. He closed the holographic display with a gesture, which brings me to the purpose of this gathering. Earth's government has approved the formation of a new division within our defense structure, the Evolutionary Response Initiative. Its mandate is threefold: to monitor potential threats, to rapidly develop countermeasures, and to ensure that humanity remains at the cutting edge of adaptive technology. Mitchell felt a nudge at his side. Frost had materialized next to him, her expression unreadable. "Hope you prepared something to say, Commander," she murmured. "You're about to become very popular." Before Mitchell could ask what she meant, Reynolds continued. "To lead this initiative, we need someone who embodies the adaptive spirit we're trying to cultivate. Someone who has demonstrated the ability to overcome overwhelming odds through innovation and sheer determination." Reynolds' eyes found Mitchell in the crowd. "Commander Mitchell, would you step forward?" The crowd parted, and Mitchell found himself moving toward the center of the room almost involuntarily. As he reached Reynolds, the Admiral extended a hand. "Commander, in recognition of your actions at Epsilon 9 and your exemplary service record, I am authorized to offer you command of the Evolutionary Response Initiative's first operational unit. Do you accept?" Mitchell blinked, the offer catching him completely off guard despite Frost's warning. He looked around at the assembled faces, some familiar, most unknown, all watching expectantly. "Sir, I'm honored, but I'm not sure I'm qualified. I'm a colonial defense officer, not a research scientist or a strategic planner." Reynolds smiled. "That's precisely why you're perfect for this role, Commander. We don't need another scientist or strategist. We need someone who, when faced with impossible odds, doesn't freeze or follow an outdated playbook. We need someone who adapts." Mitchell swallowed, his mind racing. What exactly would this command entail? "You'd lead a specialized team, military personnel, scientists, engineers, aboard our newest vessel, the EDF adaptation. Your mission would be to respond to emerging threats, test new technologies in the field, and essentially serve as humanity's first line of both defense and innovation." The room had gone silent, all eyes on Mitchell as he considered the offer. It was far beyond anything he had ever aspired to. A leap from colonial defense to the forefront of humanity's engagement with the galaxy. "I'd need to select my own team," he said finally. "People I trust who think outside conventional parameters." Reynolds nodded. "Already approved. Your engineer Blackwood has been briefed and is waiting aboard the adaptation. As is Dr. Lawson, though he's insisting